From the Ministry of the Presidency in Georgetown, this is This Week with the President.
Welcome to another edition of This Week with the President, a weekly news magazine which provides you with an in-depth look at the policies, programs, and work of Guyana's President. In the highlights, packed agenda for CARICOM Heads of Government Summit. More communities benefit from 5B's program, and President calls for a more streamlined and properly managed City Hall. Stay with us. The stage is set for the hosting of the 37th regular meeting of CARICOM Heads of Government in Georgetown. This meeting will advance discussions on matters such as regional security, CSME, CARICOM-Cuba relations, border controversies between Guyana and Venezuela and Belize and Guatemala, and the evolving Brexit issue. President Granger said that despite issues that are causing some degree of slothfulness, that Guyana remains deeply committed to this regional body, which sees it as an extremely important, strategical, economical, and social partner.
At present, I would say that there has been a lot of development, a lot of progress in terms of functional cooperation, health, education, and so on, and also in security, particularly at the time of Cricket World Cup several years ago. What I think has been the subject of some criticism is the progress on trade and other economic relations. But I would say that CARICOM is useful. Guyana cannot do without CARICOM, and we're looking for the enhancement or the development of the single market and economy. Guyana is the biggest CARICOM state, and we would like to move ahead much more quickly.
CARICOM is one of the oldest surviving integration movements among developing countries. Earlier this year, there were reports about Jamaica considering pulling out of the 15-member body. The Prime Minister of that country has since launched a commission to reevaluate Jamaica-CARICOM relationship.
Every Prime Minister, every head of state or head of government has to understand what the public is saying, and if the Jamaican public is speaking about exit, they have to, investigate the concerns and the complaints. I did not get the impression that anybody is asking for an exit from CARICOM. They are asking for an improvement in relations. And I would feel that given the state of play in the Caribbean, if Jamaica has legitimate concerns about the influx of Trinidadian goods into the market, if they feel there's any unfairness, there are mechanisms for dealing with that unfairness. But you don't leave, you don't quarrel and destroy the whole integration movement simply because there's dissatisfaction in terms of trade.
CARICOM has made great strides, particularly through functional cooperation in education, health, culture, and security. It is also a respected voice in international affairs. President Granger is convinced that regional heads are committed to making CARICOM stronger.
There is no threat to CARICOM, and I can only say that, in my view, all of the heads are committed to making CARICOM stronger. We are scattered, we are small, and our economies are vulnerable. So it would be counterproductive for us to do anything other than support the integration movement.
Making the Garden City of Georgetown truly reflective of its name is not only the wish of every Guyanese citizen for the nation's capital, but it is what they deserve, a city that is clean, streamlined, and properly managed. This was President Granger's call to the mayor and councillors of Georgetown in his address to them during a special statutory meeting at City Hall.
As you know, the city became prey to a plethora of problems. The drainage system had been compromised. Some parts of the city, after half an hour of rain, were flooded. Its reserves and parapets in several places have been appropriated unlawfully. Some of its streets became congested by the increase in vehicular traffic. Zoning laws were ignored. Squatting on municipal reserves and parapets along the banks of major canals sprawled out of control. Illegal vending spread. Many building bylaws were flouted. Solid waste management became a costly and difficult and daily challenge. The city, when you were elected in March, desperately needed renewal. Our national capital must never, ever be allowed to be neglected in such a way again, no matter which party is in power.
The President urged the Council to consider the establishment of a National Capital Planning Commission to study the numerous plans which have been prepared over the years in order to adopt a structured approach to urban renewal.
The return of local democracy is what put you here. It excited the citizenry and it encouraged hope for the first time in 2 decades that our city could be renewed. The Council now has the responsibility of supervising municipal works and satisfying the citizens' expectations to enjoy a good life. As I said in my earlier remarks, each one of you represents about 2,800 citizens. And we expect you, week by week, month by month, to engage those citizens in your constituencies so you can bring back to the Council their opinions on the matters that affect them in their daily lives. The roads, the trenches, the mosquitoes, the congestions, including the needs of the vendors, including the needs of the businessmen, including the needs of the ordinary residents. You are their voices, and we rely on you to relay to the public at large the concerns of the residents of our national capital.
In order for this new urban center to become a reality, the President said that zoning must be reintroduced. Every vendor must be placed under a roof, roundabouts, pedestrian crossings, new bus and taxi terminals, and parking lots should be created to curb traffic congestion, and certain public places should be preserved for recreation and relaxation. Additionally, city streets need to be well lit and sanitation, infrastructure, and drainage must be addressed.
Georgetown must become a prosperous city. Investors must see the city as a favored place to do business. The city's ports must be more busy with exports and imports. Our commercial centers, our central business district must bustle with sales and purchases. Our banks, brisk in lending and encouraging savings, and the wheels of industry be allowed to keep on turning. A prosperous Georgetown will create jobs for our citizens. It will create profits for our businessmen. Georgetown's success will stimulate development in other areas.
The President said that while the government respects the autonomy of the Mayor and City Council of Georgetown, it expects the Council to act at all times in accordance with the law and consistent with national interest.
Georgetown must aim at becoming a sustainable city. And in particular, I mean financial sustainability. Some people complain, and they will always complain about new financial measures. Well, as long as those measures are transparent and they are approved by the Council and that they are in the national interest, I'm sure that the central government will lend its support.
Tourism by its very nature is synonymous with the environment. It is therefore no surprise that countries that are pursuing green agendas have thriving tourism sectors. As Guyana transitions to a green economy, the local tourism and hospitality industry is becoming increasingly important as a non-traditional economic sector. It is against this backdrop that the government pledged to allocate 2 million more hectares of land and waterways for conservation. President Granger made this announcement at the Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana's awards ceremony held at the Marriott Hotel on June 24.
I thank the Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana for the sterling work that it has been doing in helping to develop the tourism industry. I thank the persons who have been in the forefront of the effort to make Guyana a destination of choice for tourists. I thank the companies which have distinguished themselves in support of the sector. I congratulate all of the awardees this evening and look forward to their continued efforts in helping us to build a strong and resilient tourism sector. The government of Guyana tonight pledges to support tourism and joins with the Tourism Hospitality Association of Guyana in applauding your efforts.
The President explained that allocating more space to the protected area system will ensure that these natural resources are used sustainably and preserved for future generations.
Forests still cover over 3/4 of our country's territory. We possess vast areas of unexplored and virgin territory. We possess innumerable sites and attractions for the development of ecotourism. Protected area systems will ensure that these resources are conserved for sustainable tourism for future generations. We will place an additional 2 million hectares of land and waterways under conservation in accordance with our promise, our commitment under the Paris Agreement. The protection of the environment is a central pillar of our green economy. We will ensure that the development of the ecotourism sector will accord with the principles of sustainable development to which our country has long subscribed. Ecotourism for us involves the preservation and conservation of our natural assets, including our flora and fauna.
Guyana is seen as the next frontier for tourism. President Granger said that tourists have now grown tired of the traditional lure of the sun, sand, and sea that is offered by most of the Caribbean states. Tourists are now interested in finding ways to enjoy and commune with nature.
Tourism is an essential element in the national economy. It is not a hobby, it is not a pastime, it's not a sideshow. Guyana must learn to manage the tourist industry with the same seriousness and thoughtfulness with which it manages gold and rice industries. I wouldn't mention sugar. Tourism is an essential element in the world economy. It was, a couple of years ago, the 7th fastest growing sector of the global economy. The rate of growth of the sector in 2015 outpaced the rate of growth of the global economy. The industry, ladies and gentlemen, generated over $7.2 trillion annually, or 9.8% of global gross domestic product. It accounted for 1 in every 11 jobs in the global economy. We can't toy with tourism. It's a serious business. Tourism has established itself as an extremely resilient economic sector. Its prospects are bright. The industry is projected to enjoy sustained global economic growth over the next decade. This growth is expected to be driven by emerging destinations.
With its unique and exotic brand of nature, eco, adventure, and cultural tourism, the economic benefits are tremendous for Guyana.
Developing a sustainable and successful tourism sector can help Guyana achieve this bottom line. As we all know that have been involved in the business for many years, that these were the benefit of tourism. Even before the world started talking about green economies and defining what it was, that's what tourism did for economies. Tourism can provide direct jobs to the communities, such as tour guides, accommodation providers, craft manufacturers. Indirect employment is generated through industries such as agriculture, food production, and retail. Visitors' expenditure generates income for the local community that can lead to the alleviation of poverty. Tourism is a labour-intensive industry that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. There are many opportunities for employment for young people and for people interested in part-time and casual work. While some of the employment is skilled, there are also many opportunities for people less skilled and for those who lack formal qualifications. Tourism can also bring a real sense of pride and identity to communities. By showcasing distinct characteristics in their way of life, history and culture, tourism can encourage the preservation of traditions that may be at the risk of disappearing in a much quickly globalizing world.
Guyana is moving away from fossil fuels and towards a green economy in order to reduce environmental risks, aiming for sustainable development. Nature attractions like Iwakrama are at the center of the President's vision to drive this new wave of development. At the ceremony, 4 organizations and 1 individual were honored for their outstanding contributions to the tourism sector. The Hotel of the Year award went to the Marriott Hotel, the Resort or Lodge Award of the Year to the Arrow Point Nature Resort, the Direct Tourist Services Award to Trans-Guyana Airways, the Tourism Sporting Services Award to Ansa Macau Trading, and Hall of Fame Award 2016 to Mr. Tony Thorne. The right to education is one which is guaranteed by the Constitution of Guyana. With the introduction of the overwhelmingly successful 5Bs initiative, more Guyanese children are now able to attend school. To date, 10 buses, 9 boats, and hundreds of bicycles have been distributed to communities across the country. Since his assumption to office in May 2015, the President has consistently advocated for education. This program is part of the administration's investment in making Guyana an education nation.
I recall having been told by His Excellency of your approach to him for a boat to be used by our children and for the members of the community for essential purposes. And here we are, His Excellency delivering on his promise, as usual. I am of the perception that requests such as these cannot be ignored or forgotten. Why? Because this administration recognizes that education and essential services happens to be the best investment that we can make in our people.
The program has continued to grow with the support of the business community. On June 23rd, the community of Moraikabai received a 42-seater boat which was donated by Guyana Goldfields Incorporated.
I thought about the plight of our children, that they have to get up in the morning, get to school, and learn. So I'm not surprised that every single month, children are dropping out of schools all around this country. 400 children drop out of schools every month in this country. Some of them never to go back to school again because they can't afford to go to school. The parents don't have the minibus fare, or they have to go to work early. So at age 10 or 11 or 12, they already drop out and they can't complete the education. So part of the problem is the lack of money to provide transportation for children. Part of the solution is the provision of transportation to allow children to get to school. And it's my job to solve problems. The Constitution says education is an entitlement. And I want to fulfill that constitutional requirement. Children must not be kept at home because they can't afford to go to school. I know it is a problem. I've spoken with teachers.
Earlier this year, the president announced an extension to the program, moving it from 3 Bs to 5 Bs.
And yes, we'll add another B. We'll provide books too. And I'll ask the chairman of Region 10 to make sure that every child going to school gets not only access to transportation, but also access to books. And eventually, access to yet another B, breakfast. Yet another B. And one of my officers right now is investigating the cost of a standard breakfast. I want every child to start off the day with some milk, chocolate milk if you wish, and a little roll with some peanut butter, local peanut butter.
In Maracaibo, children were forced to pay as much as $3,000 per day to travel out of the village to attend school in central Maiconi. As a result, absenteeism had become prevalent. This problem is not confined to Maracaibo. It is common across the country. On Wednesday, the president visited Kumaka village in Region 10, where he handed over the keys to a 30-seater bus donated by businessman Suresh Jagmohan.
But we're witnessing an expression of everything that we believe in Guyana. That is, we are preparing to hand over this country year by year to the next generation. And the only way we can do that comfortably is to ensure that the next generation is prepared to take control of this native land of ours. We have to make sure that the next generation is not a generation of dropouts. We have to make sure that every child has a place in school, because education is the best preparation to run this nation.
Since the introduction of the program, schools have started to record significant reduction in absenteeism and enrollment has increased.
In the Borbis River, we have Granger. We are transporting 32 children from the low and upper Borbis River to that school. In the Demerara River, we are moving children from Dalgan, Gold Hill to the central in Linden. When we first started, we started with 22 children. We are now moving 45 children. We have since started a breakfast program for these children. And what we find is that even children from the lower Spike Land is coming up for the breakfast. So the program is kind of catching on, and so enrollment and attendance has been increased.
The president said that the money that parents were forced to spend on transportation for their children can now be put to other uses in the home. This is another way in which the program seeks to reduce inequality and poverty.
Because we are creating for you a level playing field, so that you have easy access to schools, just as children in Region 4 or Region 5 or any other region. And we believe that by reducing inequality, we'd have a more peaceful, a more tranquil society. We believe that poverty comes about because of inequality. Because if you do not get a good education, when you go for a job, the employer will give the job to the person who's better educated. And that is what creates inequality. Poor education creates poverty, and poverty creates inequality. So we want to make Guyana a society in which everyone has an equal opportunity to the good things of life.
The boat at Maracaibo will benefit at least 50 students, while the bus will transport children from Kumaka, Siberia, Nottinghamshire, and other villages along the Old England stretch in Region 10.
I feel proud about it, and I feel so great that he really stand to his word, and I know that he didn't fool us, but I just know it's time about the drought, and accept the excuses. But I know he would come because he promised us, and he dedicated himself, and he come, and we thankful with him today, and happy. Yeah.
Well, I feel happy. It's good for our children transportation to go out on the coast because sometimes the children travel with the rain and the pontoon, and they punish a lot.
And what benefits do you see this having on the village?
I see it's good because we don't have our own transportation individual for children, so the boat gonna take out every one of the child who going out to secondary school, and that is good for me.
I know this bus will be helping students, and one story 2 young girls related to me that practically made me cry during the campaign was that they were students of Mackenzie High School, and sometimes to get back home after school, it took them way into the evening because they had to wait or try to see how they can get a drop back home, especially if they want to use the library. But at this time, I see this problem to erasing, or will be no more, because we now have a bus that can help them in this situation.
And now let's take a look inside the President's diary. During the week, President Granger met with Guyana's new ambassador to Brazil, Mr. George Talbot, who was scheduled to assume his new post from August 1st. The preservation of national songs is not just part of the President's policy for social cohesion and increased national consciousness. The head of state has a deep love for these songs. Introducing President David Granger and the Victoria Regia Quartet.
Let's go up a parade for Guyana. Let us go up a parade for our land. Let us resolve to fight together. See we do it right together. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Each man must do his best for his country. Each man must do his best for his land. Each man resolved to help another, Lord, to call his neighbor brother. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Each group must do its best for the region. Each group must do its best for the land. Each group must sacrifice a little, Lord, to do it out a little. Can we do it? Yes, we can. The regions must unite for the country. The regions must unite for the land. Each region has its chosen mission, but they all have one ambition. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Let us go up a parade for Guyana. Let us go up a parade for the land. Let us resolve to fight together. See we do it right together. Can we do it? Yes, we can.
That brings us to the end of this week's program. Thank you for joining me. For regular updates on the Ministry of the Presidency, go to our website www.motp.gov.gy. Like our Facebook page, Ministry of the Presidency, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MOTP Guyana. Do have a safe and productive rest of the week. Goodbye.